Welcome to the first live event where we are digging into the crypto adoption in Iceland. The Crypto Adoption Week, this is the second year that we have organized it together with K33 and Nordic Blockchain Association. And we have five live events this week. We started with Sweden on Monday, Denmark on Tuesday, and earlier today we had Finland. We will finish up on Friday with a Norwegian session, and we will also, after 5 minutes or so, have a Nordic overview. And this is then also the first time that we have some numbers from Iceland, and we are really looking forward to dig into it later today. This event and this week and the survey is also made possible by the partners Safello, Kvarn, Visca Digital Assets, January, and Chainalysis. So the industry has getting together to create more insights into what is happening in the Nordics. And then I will wish welcome to the stage Magnus Jones and Vetle Lunde. They will present the core findings of the Icelandic survey, but maybe we should start somewhat with looking a little into the Nordic Blockchain Association, what it is, and what is your thoughts about the Nordics, and what is your thoughts about Iceland. Magnus, take it away.
Thank you, Morten. My name is Magnus Jones. I am a board member of Nordic Blockchain Association. I'm also a board member at K33, so I wear many different hats in Solve Matter. But when it comes to the Nordic Blockchain Association, we're a non-profit organization that operates all over the Nordics. Some might indicate that towards Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. However, Nordics is clearly also including Iceland. So we are very happy to have now getting an even stronger collaboration and cooperation through, among others, Visca at Iceland. So we hope to enhance that strong partnership also going forward. So in brief, we are an organization that is building the ecosystem surrounding blockchain and digital assets in general, and doing everything from meetups to policymaker affections towards the government's regulatory side, and also on the ecosystem of the core crypto players in general. So everyone who addresses the Nordic ecosystem, we are there for them. And one of the things we have in place is our annual conference, which is the Nordic Blockchain Conference, coming up now in Stockholm in June. So we also would like to invite everyone who is interested from the Icelandic region to join in there for a further and stronger collaboration of bringing Iceland truly into the rest of the Nordic ecosystem that is already out there.
Yes, and then we will move on to the insights and the results of this survey. And this is the first time that you guys are doing it regarding Iceland. And we're curious about it. Will Iceland be in line with the other Nordic countries, or will we see any types of differences? What were your thoughts about this, going into the spreadsheets when you got the results?
Yeah, we were quite curious before we started, and it's been the reason why Iceland was not included last year is because we use Norstat to fetch our survey data, and Norstat is not active in Iceland, but Visca helped us out and got in touch with Martina, and they ran a survey in Iceland, and it was very interesting both to see and digest the results. And also, I must say that the panel in the survey is 1,000 people. The adult population in Iceland is 300,000 people. So 0.33% of Iceland's adult population has participated in this survey, which is very unique, and it will be interesting to share the results.
What are your thoughts then, Magnus, going into the numbers and now presenting them?
Well, we're excited. We're much looking forward. We have had quite a week so far, starting out with Sweden, moving further over to Denmark, and where we have seen an increase day by day, sort of saying, in terms of the various different variations on the adoption, but in general, an increase going forward, up until we also had Finland earlier today, where we really had, call it the Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve all together in terms of the growth in so matter. So we truly see a strong momentum in the Nordics in general. Everything from the pure adoption side of crypto owners to also a stronger diversity and a female growth. And also it would be interesting in the end on Friday when we summarize everything and also include Norway to see what to call it the net wealth in general will be, as that's call it the classic media numbers that we look into. However, as we have discussed, there's also so many different other things surrounding this ecosystem from, call it, the technology perspective of developments. And this is also an area where Iceland has been a driver for the forces in general. So we are very much looking forward to dig further into this one.
Yes, thank you so far. And then I will go backstage, and you can then continue presenting the findings. Then, so bring it on.
Yes, here it is, the first Icelandic crypto adoption survey to our knowledge. We have, as I mentioned earlier in this meeting, had a representative panel from Machina of 1,015 respondents, roughly 0.33% of the Icelandic adult population. It's hard to get a very big panel in Iceland, but Machina has managed to do so. But as you see in the table on the right-hand side, it is some age variations here, and we have made some small alterations in the results to weight responses relative to the population pyramid in Iceland. But we are fairly confident that the results should be accurate, and we are looking forward to sharing these results with you. The survey is relatively simple. We ask 4 questions in total. Whether or not the respondent own any cryptocurrencies, whether or not the respondent believe it will buy cryptocurrencies or NFTs within the next decade. And if they own cryptocurrencies, we ask them what the current value of their crypto holdings are and which platforms they use to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. Overall, this gives us a comprehensive overview of Icelandic ownership rates and the Icelandic forward-looking perception on crypto and openness to crypto, in addition to a glimpse of how the industry is currently structured in Iceland and people's ability and willingness to invest. But enough about this formality. Let's move on to the data. And given that this is the first time we do this survey, it's interesting to just clarify the number. 8.7% of all the Icelandic adults own crypto. That's compared to 7.4% in Sweden, and 9.8% in Denmark and 11% in Finland. The Norwegian numbers will come later, but Icelandic ownership rates are higher than Swedish ownership rates, but a bit below the 2 other Nordic countries mentioned. Given the small size of Iceland, this reflects 26,000 Icelandic people owning crypto. And we see within the survey respondents that propensity to own crypto is higher as household income increases. So within households with higher household income, propensity of crypto ownership is relatively higher than in the opposite. And now that we are know the ownership rates in aggregate, let's have a look on the ownership rates per age, Magnus.
Indeed, Vetle. And we see from the brackets here that there's a tendency towards a younger generation of 18 to 29 years with almost 15%, and also the age group of 30 to 39 who is well represented. And the shape of this chart is something that we have also seen in the other Nordic countries. So this does not necessarily come as a surprise per se. And we could also look into the end of the graph in some matter, looking into the older generation of the age groups of 50, 59, and also 60 and others, where we see them together is more than 7%, which in general is strong. If we look into Sweden, who had the majority of the driver from the age group of 50 to 64 years old there, the numbers were 6.5%. So we see actually that it's a good representation of all age groups in Iceland in general in some matter. When it comes to the diversity part of it, the male-female ratio, we see that 11.5% of all men on Iceland has crypto assets, while it's 5.8% of females who has it. And in general, regardless of you look into the Nordics or the world, we see that the majority of crypto owners are men in general. However, the ratio here is very strong when it comes to the female side of 33% actually of all Icelandic crypto owners are females. And if we compare it to the other jurisdictions that we have previously covered during the Nordic Crypto Adoption Week, we see that Sweden are represented on 3% with females, Denmark with 3%, and Finland, that we just recently covered earlier today, are the closest one with 5%. So actually here, Iceland is leading the way, and it would be also interesting to hear further with the panel of the thoughts surrounding this one, because like we have talked about earlier this week also, that the diversity part and including females is a highly important area to the whole of the industry that we need to have a focus on. And that's also why it's great to see that our media partner here, Kauper, had actually a full broadcast on the 8th of March relating to the World's Women's Day, covering this topic in detail with 2-3 hours broadcast. So if you are interested further in depth on this area, of finding sort of saying the reasoning for one or the other here, I encourage you to listen in to that broadcast that is available on the Kauper's media side in some matter. But we will not discuss this one further right now, only indicating that Iceland is actually leading the way in terms of diversity in the Nordics so far.
Yes, and moving on to future ownership expectations, we find that 15% of the respondents in the survey believe they will own crypto within the next decade. Relative to the other Nordic countries, this puts Iceland as the least crypto open country in the Nordics, with Sweden coming in at the second at 20%. Just earlier today, we presented Finnish numbers where 41% indicated that they would buy crypto within the next decade. So Iceland is definitely somewhat of an outlier in that regard, with a rather more conservative perception on crypto. It seems like, at least. And roughly 10% of all respondents believe they will buy crypto within the next 3 years. So those who expect to buy crypto in Iceland typically expect to buy it within the next 1 to 3 years, whereas expected crypto purchases is relatively low in a 5 and 10-year horizon. So it seems like either you are expecting to buy crypto in the relatively near term, or you're not expecting to buy crypto anytime ever in the future if you are an Icelander. And looking at the same chart as was on the bottom left, now separated by current owners and current non-owners of crypto, you get an understanding of whether or not those who will buy crypto in the future are current holders or not. So as many as 4.4% of current crypto holders in Iceland intend to buy more in the next year, whereas 1% of non-crypto owners intend to buy crypto this year. We can quickly see that the chart quickly moves on to current non-owners dominating future purchases, with 4% of current non-owners expecting to buy within the next 3 years, and a further 1.9% expecting to buy within the next 5 years. So it seems from the data that Iceland is due to see some new crypto owners in the years to come. That said, it's more conservative, as emphasized earlier, than in other Nordic countries. And then looking at these numbers from an age perspective, unsurprisingly, we find that younger adults are more inclined to buy crypto in the future than older adults. Roughly 20% of all respondents aged 50 or younger expect to buy crypto within the next decade, whereas those expectations are far lower within the 50 plus age brackets. But also these figures are well below what we saw elsewhere, but it's still relatively high compared to current ownership rates, which suggests that crypto ownership is due to grow further also in Iceland in the coming years. And now that we know current ownership rates and expected ownership rates for the future, it will be interesting to better understand where Icelandic people tend to trade and the amount they have invested in cryptocurrencies.
Indeed, Vetle. And we see here from the brackets that the local offers, they are strong and present in SoMother with the mint count of 30.6%. And to be clear here in the survey, this is a multiple choice question, i.e. It means that you do not necessarily just trade at one place, but you can choose several different options here also. This is why the numbers do not add up to 100 in SoMother. But we see also Eastmint is well represented actually on a 4.2% level, also indicating that international actors, like some of the largest one who has been around for quite some time, like Coinbase and Binance, is well represented with 26, a little bit more than 26%, and also the same on the side of 20. We don't have here any other numbers to compare with, but what we have seen in general on the other regions we have looked into previously this week of Denmark, Sweden, and Finland is that typically the international ones like Coinbase and Binance, they have actually decreased, and we have seen more of the local side taking over. But also on the Finnish side, we saw that the DeFi landscape, the decentralized finance landscape, and other internationals has taken over, and maybe we can see that there's a link towards sort of a representation from that side of close to 10% of other international exchanges, and also Uniswap, which is a decentralized exchange of a strong number in some matter of 4.2%. Normally, this lays surrounding a 2% area. So this also might be an indicator towards that people in Iceland are actually pretty crypto native in some matter in terms of how they are using crypto in itself, and also doing their trading, not necessarily only on centralized platforms, but also facilitating the whole of this ecosystem. When it comes to the ETP, the ETFs, the exchange traded funds, i.e. that you more or less own a stock and a share that has a represented underlying, typically a Bitcoin or a Ether or some other cryptocurrency, that is at 12.5%. And we've seen a very huge variation from country to country previous in this week, where Sweden has a very strong presence of even as much as 33% relating to ETP and ETFs. Some of that is related, as we discussed, towards tax reasons for it. Denmark, to compare it, had 14% there. Finland had 8%. So we see also maybe that there's an indication that actually Iceland is pretty far ahead on this area also, in terms of the different types of methods that you use when you are investing in the ecosystem. But one thing is, where do you buy and purchase and trade your crypto assets? Another one is also how large of a value that you have. And when we look into and see this graph, we see the same pattern surrounding the other countries in the survey so far, that actually a majority of the crypto owners do not have such a large of a total value in their cryptos. It is 75% of Icelandic crypto owners who owns less than 600,000 Icelandic crowns, or equal to $5,000 US. So it's rather maybe on the majority side who has a relatively small amount connected towards it. While on the other end of the scale, we see the ones who typically has more than 50,000 euro dollar-ish. That part is at 3% here. And that is also actually pretty high compared to the other Nordic countries, where Sweden had 1.17%, Denmark had 2%, and Finland had 5%. So it seems like also there are quite a few persons in Iceland in general who has great values connected towards crypto, even though it's a few few persons who is actually holding the total value of it. So Vetle, it would be very interesting to hear now our rough estimates on how large of a total value that Icelandic people are holding in crypto assets.
For sure. And as you clarified, these are rough estimates. It's based on a back of the envelope approach of calculating wealth within each value bracket. And maybe the title on this slide should be a bit different, because here you see that the estimated value of people holding between 12 million and 60 million Icelandic kroners worth of crypto is through the roof compared to the rest of the categories. So maybe in this instance, the wealth estimate should be perceived as a bit more aggressive. It gives a ballpark estimate of how much value is in Icelandic crypto owners, but this one might be a bit aggressive, as stated. But we do the calculation in a relatively simple manner. We multiply the amount of holders within a given value bracket. So for 12,000 to 120,000 Icelandic kroners, we multiply that by the amount of holders, no, by the median value within that category. So that would be 60,000 Icelandic kroners. And that gives us a value which within that value bracket. So as you can see, while it's fewer and fewer people holding a majority of the size, the majority of the size is held among the few. So it gives at least an insight on the income distribution or crypto wealth distribution in Iceland. And it's interesting to note that the chart on the left very much resembles all of the other Nordic countries, with holders typically holding small amounts of crypto exposure and being conservative with their exposure, but still dipping their feet into the market and taking part in the crypto markets. So wrapping all of these results up, we find that Iceland has approximately 26,000 crypto owners, representing 8.7% of all adults. There is a gender gap in Iceland, with male adoption sitting at 11% and female adoption at 5%. That said, this gender gap is far narrower than in many other Nordic countries, and also what we have seen in international surveys. So it seems like diversity on a relative scale in Iceland is quite good when it comes to crypto ownership. And then our estimated, not Finnish, but Icelandic crypto wealth is stated to be 50 billion Icelandic kroner. Again, maybe a bit aggressive. But the potential ownership of crypto in Iceland is at 15%, 44,500 Icelanders, which is compared to the rest of the Nordics, a very soft figure, well below what we saw earlier today in Finland. And so that was it for the presentation, and let's move on to the discussion.
Yes, and usually we have also, before we have introduced the panel, also asked Magnus and Vetle about some of the findings. But in this case, we don't have that much clues from before, because the Icelandic market is also new for many of us. What would you guys be most curious about hearing from the panel, if I could turn around this part of this session? Magnus?
Well, like I briefly mentioned, I think I would be curious to hear and see if there's any apparently clear reasons for the significant strong female ratio adoption, which we have stressed so many times is a general thing globally for the crypto industry that needs to be enhanced and need to be lifted forward, and maybe see if there's some things we can learn from Iceland on this area. I think it would be interesting to also hear in general about the ecosystem. As we know, there has been lots of, call it, mining activity, the tech development perspective, how we see the decentralized finance sectors, but also the centralized finance sectors is actually growing. So even like Vetle said, it's a small population in general, but we actually have an even stronger than indication towards the findings there that they are representative. So that's why I see Iceland as very representative and important in general in terms of the ratio towards the population. So I think it would be interesting now to just hear from all the local experts' views and see how they see this one, and if there's any surprises to them, who sits even more close on this market than Vetle and I are doing, even though we have naturally been following it. But as we know, it's not been that easy to sit spot on and have the pulse on the market. So I'm very excited to hear from the key stakeholders and the ecosystem players.
Anything that you want to add to that, Vetle? The questions or insight that you want to know more about from the local thought leaders and business leaders?
Yeah, it would be if they have any view on why like ownership rates are relatively good in Iceland, but expected ownership rates on the line is comparatively low if you look at all the other Nordic countries. It would be interesting to have a discussion on that. And then also, given that we don't have data from last year or years previous, it would be just interesting to get a touch and a sense of how the last year has been in terms of crypto adoption in Iceland. If they think the numbers from Finland of 75% increase in crypto owners reflect Iceland, or whether or not they think maybe a more conservative growth like the one seen in Sweden from 6.8% to 7.4% is more closer to resemble Iceland. I also have this like theory of in those Nordic countries where you have the more narrow gender gap, the entire country has come closer to reach some kind of saturation of crypto ownership and also matured a bit more. So it's been like more broad acceptance of it. So I'd be curious to hear if that's their experience, if they experience like the media being more welcoming and open to it and politicians being more welcoming and open to it, or whether or not that assumption or theory is just completely off.
That's a lot of questions that we want to have some answers on, and we will then add our guests to the stage. Just a minute, and I will give them the possibility to join, and then I will start with please give a short introduction of who you are, what you represent, what is your focus, and maybe we could start with you, Dagur.
Sure. My background is software development, and I started Bitcoin protocol development in 2015. And now I run a company doing smart contracts on the Bitcoin Cash. So we do a decentralized exchange, and also we have our own stablecoin.
Jon?
Yeah, I am a co-founder of Monerium, the first company to issue authorized and licensed stablecoins. And the fun fact is that the first authorized and licensed stablecoin was the Icelandic krona, issued at the national holiday in Iceland, June the 17th in 2019.
Then we can continue with you, Ilham. Please hear more about you.
So I'm postdoc researcher at the FinTech Research Center in Reykjavik University here in Iceland. And I've been, like, my research focus was on blockchain, software engineering, smart contract. I've been collecting a lot of data about smart contracts, the transactions, and did a lot of empirical studies to know, like, what's happening exactly in the network and what kind of activities we have there, depending on like different focus.
So then we have a mixed panel about tech and finance. That's great. Gulle, maybe you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Mortens, and thank you, Magnus and Vetle, for hosting this great event. It's great to have like a comprehensive view of the crypto adoption in the Nordics finally. My name is Gulli. I'm one of the co-founder of the company Viska Digital Assets, where I'm positioned as a CIO. We launched our first crypto liquid token fund in 2022, and then we launched a second one abroad in last year. So, I mean, we are part of managing our funds. We are trying to be really, visible out there in Iceland and abroad, writing a lot of content about crypto and, how it's getting more mainstreamed and also embrace it as an asset class. And we also go quite a lot abroad and as attendees to conferences and regularly speak and, participate in panels like this one. So really glad to join you guys.
Thank you. And then I want to know what stands out from the survey as you believe. And maybe we could continue with you, Gulle. And what do you want to focus on from the findings?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the first thing that I actually did, because there was actually a survey a few years ago, I think it was 2022 from the Central Bank of Iceland, and they did a similar survey. And the quite funny thing is they actually had the exact the same adoption rate of current holders of cryptocurrency, which corresponded to 8.7%. So that's quite interesting. But I mean, this is really interesting to see. I mean, first off, I think we still need to do better. Probably we stood quite well in that year compared to what I'm reading about the Scandinavian countries and maybe other European countries as well. I mean, the female participation rate is pretty interesting. And what comes to mind there is, I mean, Iceland is I mean, pretty far in terms of, you know, diversity and equality between the sexes, and we have a lot of initiatives within the business and investment community also to, you know, host a female-only like investment clubs and all kinds of events. So I think this is just probably a part of us as a nation encouraging female participation in business and investment. So I think that's probably one of the reasons about that. So.
What about you, Ilham? What stands out and what you want to highlight on from the findings?
And yeah, it was really interesting presentation and also interesting results. I would like to add to the female ratio adoption. It's also we have a lot of initiatives in the university itself to encourage a lot of women to have them in the STEM, also raise the awareness in different fields in the STEM. Part of it is the cryptocurrency and also blockchain. And I think these kind of events kind of helped in increasing the ratio of the adoption ratio in the women's side. Also, what I found it very interesting is the high number of 85% that will never buy crypto. And I'm not sure is it because of the regulation in the Iceland, but also it could be highly because how crypto is presented and perceived to these to the users in Iceland. And one thing that we were thinking as researchers is to know the literacy index, how much they know about, like, you know, blockchain or cryptocurrency, if they're trading or not. So I think this also plays a big role, like, you know, this very high percentage. And I'm not sure, is it, are they well aware or they're not aware and they have, you know, different perspective about cryptocurrency trading.
And then we can go on with you, Jon, your 5 or 10 cents. I don't know how much you have.
Yeah, I think there are basically two things. First, you know, what was mentioned last by the previous commenter. I think it's interesting that, you know, a lot of people think they will never, you know, 85% are not going to buy crypto. I think that's amazing. I think it reflects the fact that there has been relatively negative discussion in Iceland around crypto by some high-profile officials, I would say, the central bank, the current chair of the supervisory board, and so on. So I think that's one reason. Another reason might be that we used to have capital controls after what happened in 2008. Some would think that that would, you know, facilitate people to use something different, but there were capital controls. It was, you know, by law, so maybe that is also affecting that people are not willing to try anything else. I don't know. So I think that's a really interesting conclusion from the from this. But also, but the other thing, which is the relatively high proportion of females owning crypto, that's not a surprise. We have very strong women in Iceland. They are basically running Iceland today. The government, the president, you know, it's all female. So that's not a surprise at all.
Okay, and then to you, Dagur.
But it's good to see that adoption is strong. It was as expected. I wouldn't expect Iceland to have any less adoption than other Nordic countries. On the contrary, I would actually expect it to be a bit higher, but here we are. As for the women, as has been mentioned, Icelandic women are strong and independent thinkers. They're smart. and I wouldn't expect them to be behind on development.
So maybe the other Nordic countries have something to learn from women in Iceland. So then we will welcome Iceland on the next diversity event that we will have in Kauper. I was just thinking about this story about the krona and the stable coin, and this is a quite interesting story because it's not then only related to Iceland but related to Europe. So how come this was launched in Iceland as the first country in Europe? Jon.
Yeah, well, that was a very simple reason. So basically, I was part of the central bank after the crash. I was in the cleanup department. And the reason that we had this problem was, because of the currency and because of the fact that you didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice to where you basically place your money. It has to be a bank deposit. And so when Ethereum was launched in 2014, it was a question, okay, so instead of reacting to crisis and trying to, increase regulation and so on, why don't you just try to change the system? You can do it in a different way. You can offer a choice to society where people can hold their money on the blockchain, and they don't need to hold it in a bank. And then the question became, okay, so if you do that, then also what we know is that money, fiat money, national currencies, they are always a legal thing. It has always been like that, whether you like it or not. So we just, after Ethereum was launched, we said, okay, so how do we regulate this thing, this new technology? And we searched and we found a legislation in Europe, which is now being confirmed by the European Parliament. It's basically e-money. E-money legislation that was introduced 25 years ago. So we designed the system to support that legislation, but using the technology. So that is why we became the first company to issue stable coins that are authorized and licensed. And the first currency, the first fiat currency was the Icelandic krona. But Iceland is a small country. So we decided to just say, okay, so we're going to focus on the euro. And because of our affiliation with the EU, we were able to do so. So we have been doing so, and we have integrated with the European payment system. So now you can, move freely from the banking system, back and forth to Web3. And that is why we had 50% of the volume for euros on chain last year. Second was Circle, and third was Tether. And also interestingly, I think when people talk about crypto, people don't realize that under EU law, then stable coins, fully authorized and licensed, they're defined as crypto assets. So basically, if you use a stable coin, whether you know it or not, then it is crypto. So if people say, well, I'm not going to have any crypto in the near future, that's BS, because what is happening is that more and more features and functionalities, they are now powered by stablecoins, which are by definition now in Europe crypto. So this is all changing, and the stablecoin market is about 220 billion US dollars. It's mostly US dollars. A small proportion of this is in euros. There's not much happening in Iceland or the Scandinavian countries like Sweden or Norway for their currencies. But this is coming, and we see that also based on the news coming out of the US. It's a centerpiece of the policy in the US to basically promote crypto and stablecoins.
Yes, but isn't that what will happen, that we may be onboarding a digital asset economy without even knowing it? So we will not answer that we are using stablecoins because it's under the hood.
Exactly, and that is really interesting. So what we are seeing at Monerium, because we are so integrated with the banking system, and it's so easy to use it. If you don't want to have a crypto wallet and deal in that world, then the only thing that you need is a bank account number, right? So what we see is that we have customers that are servicing European banks, and the banks are basically using our solution without knowing it. So they are using crypto because this is such a powerful technology.
Okay. How is your thinking about the decentralized market, the stable coins? Dagur, you are working on solutions based on it, and you're not using Ethereum, but Bitcoin Cash. And why is that, and what are you trying to create?
I mean, we see in the stablecoin market, there has been a lot of development just this year. There are many both traditional finance actors coming in where they are using custodial solutions and finding good regulations for it. I am more interested in non-custodial, decentralized solutions. And in this space, we see more innovations there. There is more capital efficiency. There are more platforms supporting stablecoins, so there are more financial instruments that allow you to have yield on your stablecoin, allowing it to be a savings asset. We also develop, as you said, decentralized stablecoin we call Moria Money. And what's new about that is it's on the Bitcoin Cash virtual machine. Unlike most other products which are on EVM, we use the original Satoshi language, which is a very different platform, which makes it very efficient and cheap to use. So it's a very exciting development for us, and we're seeing a lot of momentum.
We are going to go into other questions as well and topics as well, but is stablecoins part of your focus, Gurli, or are you more focused on investments?
Yeah, I mean, our core job is to get some returns for investors, and we use it through our funds investing in liquid tokens. Of course, we use stablecoin quite a lot, and I just have one example in my mind where we because we can also invest in vehicles on the traditional finance, which has some connection to crypto. So there has been occasions where we need to move funds between continents, which we currently have on traditional finance rails, and then we have like some traditional like a bank in the US who has a crypto arm. So we were able to send a stable coin, from Europe, our counterparties in Europe to the USA within like minutes, and then we convert it into whatever vehicle we want to invest. So I mean, of course, we see like the enormous potential in the stable coin sector, and it's great to be following like Monerium, and also interesting to hear what Dagur is saying about their project. So I think we totally agree. We just saw like the new administration of the USA talking about stable coins being in the trillions within a few years, and they're also using stable coins to like facilitate the global role of the dollar as a world reserve currency. So that's an amazing statement from the largest economy in the world. So we're seeing these things like all over, but we are only like using stable coins, in our operations. I mean, we might hold some cash, then we might hold some stable coins, but in part of that, we just use it as a kind of transfer mechanism.
But you have launched two funds, if I understood it, one in 2022 and one in 2024. So then
Yes.
you are investing in crypto, mainly Bitcoin or whatever, but then it's wrapped into another type of legal structure, if you understand. It's not a token, it's wrapped into a fund.
Yeah, I mean, like we are operating with our first fund, which is now 3 years old. We are just operating as a normal alternative asset manager. We have just Icelandic LLC or whatever you would call it, which is a company that issues these shares, and our investors can see their shares in their online bank, just like if they were investing in a fund, investing in bonds or equity. So it's something that it's quite familiar with them, although the underlying asset in our case is cryptocurrencies. And that's right, Martin. I mean, we invest in all of these big coins like Bitcoin and Solana and maybe Ethereum and so forth. So I mean, we have like all the world in front of us regarding crypto. And then there's all kinds of other vehicles, funds that are trading at a discount, or some arbitrage opportunities, or some mismatch, or whatever. It's a really active world. So there's always new opportunities to try to get some returns. But our main focus has also been, of course, counterparty risk, because we came into this with the goal of handling our clients' money as proper as possible, choose the best gold standard counterparties in the industry, and that has probably got us to our third year, and we are eager to see what the future holds. But this is the current state of affairs.
But can it happen then that your investors then will say no if they ask whether they own crypto? I mean, because they own stocks of funds. We had a discussion on one of the other country live events where someone believed that in the future more and more would invest in crypto through other different types of wrappings like ETFs or funds or whatever. What is your sense regarding the future of that type of investments?
Yeah, I think that will definitely grow. I mean, like everyone probably knows in this panel, and probably the audience as well, the launch of the ETFs in the US the last year was a giant milestone, probably the largest milestone in the history of ISCA. So we are, of course, we know this is a competition, but we embrace it because it's a really big part of adoption. And some might say that, getting, ETF structure or crypto, isn't that like something backwards because people wanted everyone to invest within the crypto rails? But in our view, this is just a natural way of things. I mean, we are too early to get every banking system and every operations of a company on crypto rails. I mean, I believe crypto and blockchain technology will play a large role in the future. But the first step to get especially institutions on board in this industry is to have it in a wrapper that they know and they trust within a counterparty they are used to work with, like BlackRock. And now, just to reference in one of our articles, we found in last year more than half of the top 20 asset manager in the world, they are offering some kind of crypto solutions. It might be some kind of funds, asset management, custody, trading. So, this is just it's a crazy information to understand, because when we, mention this to our, former co-workers in TradFi in Iceland, they kind of can't believe it, because Iceland is still a bit, lacking this. But this is just, we embrace more vehicles. I think they will more to come, definitely.
And what is your market, both before MiCA and after market? Do you have clients outside of Iceland, or how is that?
Our first fund was structured in Iceland, is in Icelandic krones. So that is just focused on in the investors Iceland base. We have currently around 70 LPs in our fund, and we have some of the largest family offices in Iceland on board, and are managing $20 to $30 million. It depends on where the price is. Our new fund abroad, which we launched in cooperation with AKJ Jensen in Norway, so you might know them. That was originally seeded with our own funds with the founders, and we are now streamlining the strategies and so forth, and making the right decision about the approach to market, because you might see the foreign investors, they have a little, maybe so in some cases, different views on volatility target and so forth. So it's a work in progress, but it's really exciting.
One thing about this space is that some are using words like blockchain, other ones are using crypto, third group is only using Bitcoin, not crypto, and you also have the blockchain underlining these different things. And you, Ilham, you have created a thesis about this on your as a part of your studying or exploration, and how do you view the tech stack versus this finance world? Is this what kind of use cases have you sort of is improving people's life and improving businesses?
So in research, we see a lot of papers that talking about blockchain, how blockchain can be used as good, for different fields and a lot of proposals. But again, research is kind of a little bit different when it's applied, and you don't see much. There is also, I know there's companies that do blockchain as an application, that use blockchain as application. But if you compare to the amount of papers that we have that we're talking about using blockchain for, let's say, supply chain, using blockchain for education, digital certification, there's a lot of papers or research on that, but not a product that I can see fully working in the real world. So I think research and what we have in practice is kind of there's a little bit gap between them, and I will say this is also how people really focus on theoretical part, that when you come to implementation or come to implementing this, they might not be as how we view in as a theoretical. So there's this kind of challenges we have in research, and I see it a lot actually.
What is your thoughts about this, Dagur? Because you are attacking or developing financial solutions, but you are doing it from a collective which is in Trondheim in Norway, and which is called the Nerd Collective. And so is it the nerds that are going to create the future financial system?
It is definitely the nerds, and because crypto is programmable money, and that is like the basis of it. That means that you will have future development of financial instruments are going to be software products. So definitely the nerds, and also I believe the younger generations. I believe this group here is probably on the high end of the age of crypto adoption. Most adoption happens with the younger people. And so it's the nerds and the young people. So young nerds, I guess.
But will it not sooner or later be more abstracted when it comes to the end user? That maybe I don't know. I don't know what kind of protocol I'm using when I'm sending an email or doing something on the web. Will it go in that direction, or do you still have to have some knowledge about the tech stack?
We see development in two fronts there. You have more like, I suppose you guys you're doing integration into traditional finance, which makes it easier to just transparently adopt it with existing products. But additionally, we are seeing crypto products becoming more mature. So it is easier to have like a self-custodial solutions. It is easier to join the market and adopt crypto as a financial asset in other ways. I think with time it will become more. As time passes, it'll become more trustworthy and feel like a little bit less like Wild West as it has perhaps been recent years. And so on both fronts, we will be able to increase adoption and make it more appealing to regular folks.
In Norway, some of us have been using the frame that fintech is meeting TradFi is meeting crypto. Is that a way going forward, do you think, Jon or Gulli? Please, Gulli.
Can you repeat that just to clarify?
Yeah, are we moving towards where tech and finance and different ways of offering finance solutions are moving together? I mean, fintech, and you have the TradFi, and you have the crypto, because crypto can be underlining, as Ilham said, about can be a blockchain or a tech that can support some type of utility. So are we seeing some type of merging of these cultures and businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, just like just not talking about the internet. I think like few of us, maybe some in this group, know how the internet protocols work. But we all use online banking. We all use email. We all use the web browser. So I think the same will happen within crypto. It will just be seamlessly integrated with our day-to-day lives. More by every year. So I think that's you don't have to understand the technology to use it. And that's why I say often that we are in a very interesting place in the adoption of crypto, because now, I mean, Bitcoin founded in 2009. I mean, it's been like now 16 years. And the first adopters, they were the ones who read the code. They were the ones who had this grand vision that we need something decentralized within our monetary system, So now we are at the path, and sometimes people talk about adoption like in these S waves, where you have the early adopters, which really have to have a deep understanding of tech, or what Bitcoin is standing for, to be ready to adopt. But now you have the largest asset allocators in the world, the most tech-savvy people in the world, leaders of the world, presidents of the largest countries in the world. They're all embracing this technology. So that's why we are, I think, approaching the more steeper curve of the adoption, where many people are ready to embrace that just because they trust the people who are talking about the technology, are talking about the asset class, and talking about how the world is changing. So this is where we come into a really exciting times, where I hope and I believe we will see a mass adoption within the next 5 to 10 years. And then, in like maybe 15 years, you will just have the laggards who had just decided from when they were like younger that never touched this asset class. But you always have those crowds. But I think we are approaching a really exciting time, because crypto and Bitcoin and the technology is getting more mainstream. We are still trying to streamline certain things to be able to adopt the technology in the biggest fields, but there's a lot of interesting things happening, and people have to understand that this is just not a speculative item. This is a major asset class, and this is a breakthrough technology. And this is maybe something that, especially in Iceland, people have to realize, because the discussion has been quite negative. We all know how the media works regarding news about some exchanges got hacked or something be used in illicit purposes. But I think we're not trying to get over that hill, and that's why we think there's a lot of exciting times ahead.
What do you think about this, Jon, how the usage will and the industry will develop, and maybe also meeting more traditional ways of doing finance?
Yeah, so I've been in this space for, actively from 2012. And what we have seen during this time is that we have basically seen two parallel universes developing, side by side, and so it was very interesting to look at, okay, so what's happening in traditional finance? Okay, not much new there maybe, and then we saw crypto, and it was becoming very, very sophisticated, efficient, and so on. Very interesting ideas that were developed there. What we're seeing now, like Gulli is saying, we're seeing a merger of those two worlds. So we're seeing both crypto companies adopting some of the ideas from the TradFi world and vice versa. So this is just happening. But then the question becomes, okay, so how is the adoption going to be? And it is, for this industry, it's just like other industries. You may have many use cases for crypto. That's fine. But what determines what will be picked up is there a business case? Because someone has to basically support it. So you have use cases versus business cases. And the biggest business case now in stablecoin is basically not Europeans or Americans using stablecoins. The biggest business case is a need that we're solving for people living in countries where they have unstable currencies. And they just want to access, stable currencies like the US dollar, and without needing a bank to basically store it. This is the big use case, which is also a big business case. And this is going to grow, but that is going to basically push other business cases along the way. Like Gulli was mentioning, Now we're seeing like BlackRock, we're seeing these big asset managers, they're tokenizing their offerings and offering this. So it suddenly becomes much more practical to use it, cross-border payments and so on. So it's just happening gradually. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's starting. We're starting to see this merger. Gulli said that over the next 5 or 10 years, we'll see a big uptick. I think it's going to be faster. And why? It's because when we see people like, Christopher Waller, which is a U.S. Federal Reserve governor, he's explaining, all of the opportunities in crypto and in stablecoins. I mean, the world has changed. When we started, we said we are going to work with the blockchain technology. We talked to some bank, and the bank said, "Oh, no, we're not going to touch this. We don't want to have you as a customer." Oh, really? We just want to pay our employees' salaries. No, it's dangerous. It's blockchain. This narrative is gone. In Iceland, maybe a little bit behind in general, but if you look at the world and what's happening in the US, it's just completely changed.
Okay, then. Now we have had some insights from you guys on the ground in Iceland, and then we will welcome back Vetle and Magnus. And Magnus, did you get answers on what you wanted to know, or are there still questions that you want to ask?
Well, I think we have covered a good and wide section of these areas, and naturally there are things we can always discuss down in details. I think all of us, we could have spent hours going further down in the basement covering these areas, but I think we have seen now and getting a good overview of Iceland in general and the position there. So I'm very happy with the answers so far, Morten.
There's one question that I maybe have forgotten to ask, and I've written stories before that Iceland was sort of a heaven for mining. But then politicians and some other people didn't like it. And then you had the new wave where the data centers came in. Does this had anything influence regarding the reputation of crypto and Bitcoin in Iceland? Anyone?
Yeah, it's true, Morten, that we had extensive mining operation, especially on Bitcoin many years ago, and we still have some of it. What has changed is maybe twofold. The biggest thing is that we had a lot of excess energy because Iceland is run by geothermal and hydro energy mostly, which of course create a lot of residual or stranded energy, which we could make use of in our closed energy grid system. The problem is that there's a lot of demand for energy, and we haven't been producing enough, and we haven't been building enough dams and power plants to facilitate the growth. And that's not only growth from crypto, or also from data centers, like you're mentioning. And then the second one is maybe that because of this kind of lack of energy, we had some instances that big industry players in aluminum smelters and seafood industry didn't have availability to access the energy they needed. So there was some cut needed, and crypto and blockchain mining was kind of made the bad actor in this. So that really didn't help, because like everyone who understands these things, they look at these things differently. So those two are the main factors why this has been on the decreasing side. We still have some data centers, but they've been phasing out. But we had, when I heard one time, I think we had like 1% of the mining hash rate in Iceland many years ago, but that's not the case right now.
So there can be several stories that have been influencing the climate, or what you could call it. Vetle, are there any things that you wanted to comment on, or maybe even ask the panel?
Yeah, no, it was interesting to hear about the central bank survey in 2022 and how those numbers more or less exactly reflected what we saw now. very fascinating. And I also want to just agree with Jon's point earlier on of those 85% answering that they don't believe they will buy crypto ever. It's probably a result of not being aware that they are going to like interact with crypto in some way or another without realizing in the future. So it's probably due to a lack of awareness, I guess, in that regard. But it was a bit surprising to me that Iceland was like relatively compared to Denmark and Finland lower, because like we just talked about with mining, and like you have this story about Aurora coin back in the days, and there are many unique stories in Iceland of like crypto stories, and particularly Aurora coin being distributed to every Icelanders. So I would just think based on that it would be more awareness and activity from the general public in Iceland.
Yeah, who of you guys can tell the story about Aurora coins? Because that happened some years ago and it's not happening anymore, as I understand. But it was an Icelandic coin? Jon or Gulli?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you might be a more expert on this, but what I remember that it was created during the capital controls of Iceland, and was an interesting experiment to, give every Icelander a small amount of coins, where many I know that interacted and were able to turn it into foreign currencies, which was interesting. But it was also just a great showcase of the technology. I know there's still operating nodes for and processing transaction on the chain, but it hasn't been part of the majors.
Do you have anything to add, Jon, about the story?
No, I just think it's interesting. So everything around the Aurora coin is, in a way, secret. It's not official. It's in some way it's like Satoshi Nakamoto.
Okay.
No one wants to reveal anything, and it tells you how this issue around money is sensitive, and you don't want to be exposed. No, I don't have any specifics. I thought it was very interesting what happened there. It didn't pick up, but it was very interesting experiment. Yeah.
There's one thing I want to address, and it's not specifically for Iceland, but it is, if you think about the investment and payment industry going forward, it seems like there will be different strategies, winning strategies. So some of you are working on and believing in that the crypto will be wrapped up into other types of vehicles, ETPs, ETFs, funds, and so on, and people will then just have an exposure to crypto through other types of vehicles. But while you guys, Dagur, are working on more non-custodial solutions, so give power to the owner, sort of, or do you agree on that vision?
Can you repeat the vision?
Yeah, I was just when you talk about decentralized finance, then it's nothing about banks. It's nothing about wrapping things up. You don't know what is happening. You don't know what the wallet is. While in a decentralized way, and the attraction for it is that the user has a power. Is that the market that you want to address?
Well, that's the market I am interested in. I mean, there is obviously a market for both. But I believe that more and more of the so-called traditional finance product will be moving to decentralized, or will be available in a decentralized way, which puts less road stops for people adopting them, right? So, for instance, you could have like a company issue shares as a token if regulation doesn't stop you. And in some countries that might be the way to do it, and it might be the way to attract funding for a company. And that's just one example of many type of products you can move from like traditional investment space to decentralized space.
Okay, then we will have a final round where I want you guys to give your thoughts about what will move the adoption in Iceland in the years ahead? Is there a potential to move towards what we earlier have seen from Finland, where it has grown very much and even on 11%? What is your thought of this? And maybe we could start with you, Gurley.
Yeah, what would drive adoption in Iceland?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, we will continue to do what we are doing. We are writing a lot about crypto and how it's getting like more mainstream attention. We want to, increase participation in the some kind of conferences and all that. I think we just need like the narrative to change, and the part of that is just to be more involved with media, more involved with the journalists, to get them to understand what we're doing and what this asset class is about. Because, like in many cases, bad dramatic news get more clicks than the adoption news. That's just how the human mind works. And people need to understand, like with every new technology, like the internet, it draw into it like people who wanted to speculate and make money. It also drew people who want to make bad use of the technology. And same is happening in the early days of crypto. But it also attracted people who knew what the potential were of the technology and crypto as an asset class. So that will definitely grow and outgrow the others. People just have to, take a few more steps ahead, understand what is happening. And then like another point might be that especially with like Bitcoin, I think the story of Bitcoin is you might say it's more, it makes a little bit more sense for people which live in a country where there's like a flawed currency system, flawed monetary system, or the government is spending way more than they take in taxes and all that. We had the banking collapse, so we kind of took care and cleared everything out, something that the world didn't do, and they're still, taking the effect of that right now. So this is one of the stories behind Bitcoin, and in Iceland we have now a little bit more healthy economy compared to many other countries. So people have to understand what is happening abroad and why, especially Bitcoin now, is quite relevant in what's happening. So and that's just our job to continue educating people.
What's your thoughts, Jon? What can drive adoption in Iceland even further?
I think the same thing will drive adoption in Iceland as everywhere else. It's basically a better user experience. And to be frank, then it has not been easy to use crypto assets to go and buy coffee and whatever. And so you have to have a real pain point that you're solving. So one really remarkable development is that now you have self-custodial wallets. You can have all your crypto assets there. You can bundle that with tokenized money market funds. So you always, get yields and so on. This is great. But the user experience has to be nice. So you want to go and buy coffee or buy groceries in the supermarket. So now we have quite a few solutions. Monerium is powering many of them, where you have self-custodial wallets connected to Visa cards from MasterCard, and you can go and use it at the next point of sales terminal. So that is one way. And the next step after that is that basically get rid of the card schemes, because with this technology, you don't need it, but it is there. This is the infrastructure. If you want to go to buy your thing, you will have to use it. But gradually, this will also, we will get rid of those intermediaries as well. And this is all coming. So it is, as I said, it's about better user experience. You have to solve some real problem. And, gradually, this is just happening in Iceland and as well as in other countries.
What about you, Dagur? I know that you are not only working on Iceland or the Nordics as a market. What do you think is key to adoption?
I think key to adoption is just show that you're having fun, like build stuff. You don't need anyone's permission to build anything on crypto. Just find your niche, build the stuff, show people that you're doing it. And when people see that you are doing something that's interesting, you're having fun doing it, they will often follow. They will also start doing interesting things on crypto. And And this is how we build momentum.
What about you, Ilham? What are your thoughts of the future and regarding adoption, both globally and on Iceland?
I think the most important key is the awareness. And as I mentioned before, different people, they have different perspective on how they are perceiving or how crypto is presented to them. So we need to know what are the, their literacy index in crypto, financial, where are they now, and how we can work more on that, highlight what it's there in Iceland, outside Iceland, as well as trying to educate more the people. They don't need to know how blockchain works or how mining works or whatever, but they need to know how they can use this technology in a seamless way, or what kind of use cases they can use in a positive way, not a negative way, and give them awareness, any technology has the bad side, it has the security issues, and there's a lot of these cases, but this is not always the case or always the scenario. There's always a positive side where they can use the crypto for.
And then I want to hear about you, Magnus. You're working on the Nordic and North European agenda, and you are looking into economies and businesses all over Europe, sort of. What do you see the keys to adoption from we are here and going forward?
I think it will be, like it was briefly mentioned, also a stronger collaboration in general. So that's also why we at the Nordic Blockchain Association are reaching out even more to enhance, to do the collaboration. But as it was said here, I think it's also down to getting, call it the realistic picture out that crypto is not going to take over the world tomorrow, like many media tends to believe that it's either fiat currencies or it's crypto. It's sort of the integration and the different use cases of it. Like we have discussed, stablecoins can have a great usage on the backend infrastructure, but that's the backend infrastructure that consumers will not see in general. That's just how banks and finance is driven in general. And that's maybe down to the areas that, whether or not you're in Norway or you are in Iceland, you can pay and tap with your Visa card, and that works very well. But on the other side of the areas where Dagur is working, there's clearly a need and an area in the world where also the decentralized finance plays a key element. So that's why we should not ignore these type of parts. That's also a very important part of driving the innovation in general. So I think overall, understanding that this landscape is not even fully developed. We have just started. But what we clearly see is that tokenization in one way or the other, all depending on, call it your business, your initiatives, where you are in the world, that will be a key part of the future of the ecosystem of both finance and also society in general. But it might not happen, call it the way that the media has in general presented it, like blockchain is the same as cryptocurrencies, is the same as Bitcoin. And when will it happen that we go down to the local store and pay with the Bitcoin? There might be different use cases surrounding this one, but in general, it is about bringing the world forward, using the relevant technologies, and in lots of cases here, blockchain in general, including the tokenomics part, will play a key role for sure. And in that part, we need to collaborate also stronger in order to take the best from, call it, Dagur's decentralized side towards on the centralized actor side on the other part, and combine the best of the two worlds. And this is how we drive the landscape forward.
What do you think then, Vetle? And what do you think then would make you mostly curious 1 year from now regarding Iceland? Would it be the regular adoption, or will it be the way people are thinking about the future?
I think adoption will sort of linger on the market and where the overall market is headed in the next year. But I think the most important path for Icelandic adoption to grow and awareness to improve is through a topic every one of you has mentioned, education and also innovation, but education and engagement with the general public. Try making people aware that crypto is far from a binary market. You have people who want to trade in a completely decentralized structure, and you have people with very different needs who needs a wrapper and an ETP and a regulated structure. We have many questions right now that can explain crypto a bit by just explaining them. So the US is looking at launching a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Why? Tell people why. Talk to them about Bitcoin's verifiable scarcity and that it's money that you can govern on your own. Explain why actors such as Stripe is launching stablecoin payment rails. It's because transactions are international and nearly instant. It's an efficiency gainer. Just broaden public understanding of what this technology can offer. And I think adoption is going to follow suit as the market realizes all of those opportunities and efficiency gains that's found within the crypto asset ecosystem.
Then we will wrap up this live event with Iceland for the first time. Thank you very, very much for sharing your insights and thoughts, and thank you also to the presenters for presenting the findings from the Icelandic first crypto adoption survey. And this week, Crypto Adoption Week in the Nordics will end on Friday, but then with two agenda in sort of one same channel. We will start with Norway at 11 o'clock, and after 1.5 hours and a short break, we will also then wrap up the whole week and give you the overview of the Nordic findings. And we thank you very much for the guests, and looking forward to you guys next year. And thank you very much, then all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.